And we're back. Welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay and Gerald coming to you live. Oh my goodness, we have a special guest today. And not just anybody, an absolute expert on the auto insurance industry. Not the crap that you see on TV or the internet and the stuff you hear. You are going to hear the real deal today. Mr. Gerald Bentley, are you ready to do this?
Yeah, I thought we were going to get the general on today.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Have you ever felt like you were taken for a ride while buying, selling, or repairing your car? Well, not anymore. I'm Jay, and this is the podcast to tell you what to watch out for, whether you are buying, selling, or repairing your car. With over 26 years of automotive experience, we are the Auto Authorities. This podcast is sponsored by iAutoAgent.com. We're real estate agents for cars.
Booyah, welcome back to the Auto Authorities Podcast. My name is Jay and Gerald coming to you live. Before we get going and we meet our amazing guest today, I would like to thank our sponsors, iAutoAgent.com. That's I, like integrity, AutoAgent.com. If you're an individual and you want to sell your vehicle, or you're a business with a fleet and you want to sell your vehicle, we'll do it for you at no cost to you. We'll market, list, and show your vehicle, and you don't have to do anything. And when you're ready to buy your vehicle, you contact us. Not only will we find that vehicle for you, but we'll deal with the dealer for you, and we can even have that vehicle delivered directly to your door. And to my left, Gerald Bentley with Dealership Rescue. I'm losing my voice today, by the way, folks. So hopefully I won't lose it while we're in this show. But Gerald, tell us about Dealership Rescue.
Yeah, you can visit the website at dealershiprescue.net. What we're doing is we're taking a look at analytics in management. It's big in sports, right? Every sports team, they have analytics analysts that dial in and say, hey, you should run this play at this time. You should sign up this way. This should be your lineup. You can apply that to car dealerships too. Dealershiprescue.net. And then you can also tune in to Wrestling with Sales on YouTube. This week, it's a little bit of a best of. We're going to hear from Medusa, the WWE Hall of Famer. She has a new book out, The Woman Who Would Be King. Ross and Marshall Von Erich, the third generation of Von Erich Wrestling Dynasty, about how they're keeping their family going. And then Michael Strider, who's restarting Central States Wrestling in the Kansas City and maybe getting into the St. Louis area, a little bit of local wrestling, what it takes to get that started, because they truly are wrestling with sales, and you can take their success and you can apply it to what you do in sales. So interesting stuff, a little bit more interesting than your regular sales training shows.
Check it out. And speaking of checking out, when you want to watch the Auto Authorities Podcast and you want to watch us live, go to the Facebook group page and click Join Group. You can watch our pretty faces live at 12 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday. And if you just want to watch us, but you're not able to watch us live, go to the YouTube page, The Auto Authorities. We're getting 30, 40, 50,000 views on our podcast worldwide. And if you want to just listen to us on the way to work, you can do that too. We have 19 different channels, the iTunes. You can find us on the AutoAuthorities.com. That's the AutoAuthorities.com. And you can watch, or you can listen to us, and wow, you're going to learn a lot. And speaking of learning a lot, we're going to learn a lot today with Dave Peterson with Multiple Choice Insurance, the insurance expert. Dave, welcome to the show, and tell us about yourself and your background.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Sure.
So just like Jay said, I'm the owner of Multiple Choice Insurance. I am a local independent broker, and I really do two things for my clients. The first I focus on is eliminating gaps in coverage so you feel comfortable with what you have, because when things do go south, I want you to have confidence and peace of mind in what you have. And then secondly, I help lower insurance costs for people. So as a broker, I have access to dozens of companies so I can shop rates, find the company that's most competitive for you. And I bring in almost 18 years of experience in the industry. I was a former claims adjuster, so I have a really unique background as an agent so I can service my clients. Like I said, when things go south, because they will inevitably, and want to make sure you're confident in what you have, and make sure you return to normalcy sooner than later.
Thanks, Dave. Welcome to the show. And Dave has a golden nugget saved for the very end of the show. So you're going to have to listen or watch all the way to the end, because he has an amazing golden nugget that will blow your mind. And speaking of blowing your mind, I want to talk about this Kia and Hyundai crap that's going on, where all these people are afraid to buy Kias and Hyundais. What's going on in the insurance world right now about this Kia and Hyundai, where people are stealing them with USBs, and I don't know.
Yeah. So we feel like we've been hearing about this for years, and that truly is the case, because once this trend took off, you found that insurance companies were being very reactive to this. They didn't know how to respond at first, because the amount of thefts, it literally tripled in percentages. And
Sure.
you have the city of St. Louis with a lawsuit against Kia. It's just been an absolute nightmare. And chances are you probably know somebody who's been affected by it. Either their vehicle was actually stolen, or what happens in a lot of cases is the vehicle doesn't get stolen, but they break in, they mess things up. I know people personally that have had issues where it didn't get stolen, but the theft or the burglars essentially left their vehicles in a complete destroyed nightmare. And so that was still a claim. So what's happening is, as you have these thefts just multiplying, is carriers are now scrambling to figure out, well, gosh, how do we respond to this? And you have different avenues that they're taking. You have some carriers who are completely blacklisting these vehicles altogether and saying, hey, we're not going to insure this vehicle. You have other carriers who are going to cover your vehicle up until your next renewal. So they're essentially buying you some time to go find a different carrier, because they're going to cut you off in 3 months, 4 months, whenever you renew next. So that's been an issue. And then you have some companies who are being a little bit more lenient, but they'll say, we'll cover your car for liability only, and we won't cover it for comprehensive or collision, which, if you have a loan on your vehicle,
can't do it.
It just doesn't help you out at all. So you have companies that are being very reactive and scrambling to try to find the best solution to that. And now you have the manufacturers, which you guys probably are in tune with, what they're trying to do to curtail all of these thefts with these ignition immobilizers and software updates. They're even giving steering wheel locks to local law enforcement to pass out. So they're trying different things to kind of get the trend back in the right direction. But the problem is, on the insurance side, until these carriers can get good actuarial data, they can't really correct what they're doing right now with the rating or the blacklisting of these vehicles. So I still think we're in this for, until the remainder of the year. Maybe next year we start to figure out how these vehicles are going to be rated. So I think we just have to let the storm ride out. And I've been telling people, if you're in the market to buy one of these vehicles, reach out to a professional agent and let's talk about, is your vehicle insurable through this company? If
Sure.
it is, how much are you going to pay for that coverage? So trying to be proactive on that front end, even before you purchase the vehicle, and we can look at some solutions to make sure you're covered in the way you need to be.
Well, and I know that they did issue a recall for 19 and older, or 19 and newer cars, where they're adding that software patch. But the older ones, it is a huge difference, because most new cars now are virtually impossible to steal unless you have the key, because you have the engine inhibitors. And without the engine inhibitors, it's just like the old cars, where you take a screwdriver, pop the steering column off, and you can start the car.
Yep. Yeah. It's very easy. And you saw too, these videos just spread across social media like a wildfire. And you have people that aren't career criminals, but thinking this is a game or thinking it's fun. and it's just blown up. And so now, the responsible drivers or vehicle owners of these cars are just left scrambling. What do I do? So it definitely has been a wild ride.
Dave, let's talk about, rate increases. I mean, obviously, does this play a part? Because a lot of people are complaining about rate increases. Does this play a part in that?
Absolutely, it does. 100%. And it's kind of funny, Jay. There's the I for integrity in iAutoAgent. Well, what's the other I word that we've been hearing a lot about the last couple of years?
Increase? I don't know.
Inflation.
Inflation.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Ding, 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 you win the prize.
So, this is the blanket response that we get when we hear about our grocery bills going up or our gas bills and our electric bills. Oh, well, it's just inflation. And I get a lot of calls from clients that say, hey, my rate's going up. My agent told me it was inflation. And I think that's a little bit of a lazy response. I mean, there is some accuracy to that. But if we really dive into, well, why are your rates going up, especially if your driving record has stayed the same? So no tickets, no accidents. You would just assume, well, hey, I'm a great driver. I should be rewarded, but yet my rates are going up. And so another term that we're probably sick of hearing about last couple of years, supply chain shortage, right? We've heard that how many times? Thousands of times. The reality is that is still an issue with getting parts, getting equipment. And on average, car parts are about 22% more than they were just 2 years ago. So you have an increase in the amount of part or the cost of parts. And then the average cost to repair a vehicle is up another 18%. So those are two really big factors. Number one, it's costing more to get the parts. It's taking longer to get the parts. And then secondly, it's costing more to repair the vehicles because there's also been a shortage of qualified technicians to repair these vehicles.
Absolutely.
And then on the flip side, right, what's the other thing that happens in an auto accident when somebody gets hurt? We have medical bills. And so the cost of medical care in the United States for the last 2 years has gone up about 8%. And you may think, oh, that's single digits. That's nothing huge. But I mean, that 8% equates to literally millions and millions of dollars. So these are some really key factors that are driving your rates up. And then, Jay, something that you are very in tune with is the prices of new cars and used cars. What have they been doing the last couple of years? They've been
skyrocketing.
Skyrocketing. So now when an insurance company has to replace a vehicle, guess what? They're spending more to replace that vehicle for that person. So these are all of these driving factors that are raising rates up, even for people who have ideal driving records. And so just like I'm an agent, I'm also a consumer. So are you, Jay. So are you, Gerald. And, this is something that I experience on my end as well, is the cost going up on my own policies. So I'm just really trying to reiterate, why it's going up and just not using that blanket inflation response, because I guess in a way that's true, but there's those factors behind it that are really in particular to auto insurance rates and why we keep seeing those go up.
I want to talk about, man, that is really well said, because I've just got this burning question I'm going to ask you here in a second. But for those of you that are just tuning in, we are just talking with David Peterson. He is the owner of Multiple Choice Insurance. He's an absolute expert. We're learning about all these things about insurance, not boring stuff, the stuff that you want to hear that's affecting you right now, and not the crap that we see on the internet or we hear on the radio or the TV. He is telling us the real deal, and he has given us some amazing golden nuggets, and he's saving one for the very end of the show. But what I want to talk about is I want to talk about EVs, and I want to talk about, like, if I get an EV, am I going to pay more in insurance? What are the positives of EVs, or even more so, what are the negatives of having an EV when it comes to insurance?
Yeah. So from an insurance standpoint, EVs are a tricky subject. Just like I had mentioned earlier with the Kia and Hyundai vehicles and how the industry is very reactive to these trends, I still think it's very reactive to EVs in general, just in terms of how to rate them. And then what we're seeing with the cost to repair and replace them. So Gerald, something you had mentioned when we were talking was, well, gosh, you get into an accident, you get T-boned, and an EV, what would normally be the case for a regular combustion engine is, hey, you've got a $5,000 claim. It's in the shop for a week or less. You get it back and you're all set.
Yeah, a couple
Gerald,
of door skins, and there you go.
Yeah. And so, Gerald, what had you said earlier about let's say the Tesla, for example? What are we seeing there?
Well, here, EVs are super heavy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they tried to do to lower weight is incorporate the battery bracket into the frame. Okay, yeah, makes sense, right? Eliminate some parts, sure. The problem is now it's a unibody with the battery incorporated to it. Like I said, you bang the door, you T-bone the door, a couple door skins, maybe a little metal work, no big deal. But on an EV, you just bent the frame in, you damaged the battery. The battery isn't replaceable, it's not repairable, it's recyclable. Car's done. Bye. Gone.
Yep.
So what would have been a $5,000, $4,500 repair, it's now a total loss. And insurances have to incorporate that because they're taking the risk. You get into any kind of accident, anything even remotely serious, that car's totaled.
Bingo. And that's exactly what I wanted you to say, because in an instance where you have a minimal claim on an EV, now you're talking about replacing the vehicle, obviously at a much higher cost for the insurance company. And that is a big deal. The other issue that you can run into is, let's say you do have a minor accident. Well, EVs are very particular about how you repair and replace parts. And then it takes obviously a lot longer to get these parts. And so now what you're seeing is that EV is now sitting in the shop for 30 days, 60 days. I had a recent claim on an electric vehicle that was in the shop for almost 3 months for a very minor repair. So now you're paying extra costs for a rental car. I mean, the costs are just absurd on some of these. So those are some things that you would have to pay attention to as an EV driver. And I don't want to be fear mongering, because they're great vehicles. But from an insurance standpoint, yes, you can see an increase in premium just based on the cost to repair or replace these vehicles, and then what it takes to actually get them repaired if they still are repairable.
And yeah, not to hammer the EVs, because I think time will take care of it. Because here, right now, in order to have done a show like this a decade ago, we would have had to rent a studio, drive down, maybe we could rent the studio at the local PBS station. So spend a couple $1,000s for the studio, have a producer, have 3 cameramen, have a lighting person, spend thousands of dollars to record it and take our time, and then go and edit the video before it could get shown. Now we're doing it on computers, probably totaling less than $5,000 total. It's shot immediately. It can be edited in minutes, and it's going to be out there. That kind of cost savings will come to EVs, but it's going to take time. They have to get these battery plants up and running. You got to get everybody producing them. These are early adopters. You're going to pay more. It's going to take a while before it becomes the norm, and then prices will drop.
Yeah, it's 100% accurate. I agree.
So, Dave, let me ask you this: if I want to know, because you told me that you would provide our listening audience a golden nugget, and I think we are all ready to hear that.
All right. So we just talked earlier about rising costs, right? It's happening across the board. I don't know of a single carrier in the state of Missouri or the surrounding area, at least where we are, that hasn't already taken an increase or even 2. And so what we're really focusing on now is, how do we help keep those costs down? That's a big part of what I do day in and day out with new clients, existing clients. And how do we help keep that insurance rate down? Now, something that we may dive into a little bit more is telematics. And so if you're unfamiliar with what telematics is, it is a usage-based discount. So an insurance company will give you a discount based on the way you are driving your vehicle, which is pretty interesting concept, because when your grocery bill goes up or your gas bill, you don't have anyone saying, hey, there's a way that you can actually lower that cost by doing this or by doing that. So this is the one discount that does put you in the driver's seat, pun intended, on how to keep your rates down. So it is a pretty important conversation I have with clients, because it's not for everybody, especially if you're coming to me and you've got 3 or 4 speeding tickets in the last handful of years. You're not a good candidate for it. But for the average driver, it is a really nice way that you can save, sometimes up to 30% off of your rate. And it is becoming more and more popular for the average everyday driver to utilize these discounts. That is a really big part of my conversation when we talk about rates going down. The other thing that I'm looking at too, we have a lot of conversations with households with teenage drivers, right? We all know how much that drives cost up. But what if that driver has a 3.0 GPA or above? You're eligible for a good student discount. We have kids going off to school in about a month and a half. So if they're leaving that car in mom and dad's driveway, guess what? You're eligible for another discount. Do you have your home and your auto bundled together? We have a lot of different things that we can do to help keep that cost down. And then obviously as a broker, I have access to a ton of companies. So I'm going to shop your rates and find out who's the most competitive for you.
This is awesome, Dave. That was really great to hear. I've heard a lot about those telematics, and obviously I would not be a good fit, not because I have tickets. It's because I'm the best driver out there, and I don't need anybody to tell me that I'm not. But anyway, Dave, this has been incredible. Thanks for being on our show once again. Thanks for being an avid listener of the Auto Authorities podcast. If people want to get, they want to do an audit on their insurance, they want to talk to you, they want to ask questions, other than leaving comments below, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah. So many different ways. Calling, simple. Call Dave and save, right? 636-400-3355. You can also text that number. Same thing, 636-400-3355. You can visit me at my website, calldaveandsaveinsurance.com. Or what you could do is you can simply send a text, and I can send a link out where you could upload all of your insurance documents in about 60 seconds and get a fast quote that way. So there's just a ton of different avenues that you can find me. You can even find me on social media, my Facebook page. I am readily available and always happy to chat.
Dave, you're awesome, man. He's so awesome. For everybody listening, I've known Dave for so long, and he's just really, really good at what he does. And he really cares about people. Thank you so much for joining us. Gerald, if you don't have anything else, we will see you next week. Peace.
Great.